Hey everybody, hope you're enjoying your cold, long, snowy winter. Here in Milwaukee, we've had more snow than I can remember having in the last, probably the last 5 years. About 2 weeks ago, I was in upstate New York for 5 days shooting for a TV show that is specifically about winter. So between that and the fact that I live here in Wisconsin, I've had tons of winter flying experience over the last 5 years. So today we're gonna talk about different tips for flying in the winter. I can take this off now. It's hot. I'm inside. I don't need this on. I realize we're in March now and winter is almost done. However, I live in Wisconsin. It's winter for like 6 months of the year, so we still have probably a month and a half of cold weather left. Plus, let's be honest, winter flying tips are great and they're never gonna go bad. They're gonna be just as good next year as they are now. So I'm gonna give you guys some thoughts and ideas about winter flying that are based on my experiences from the last few years of flying in the cold weather. So tip number one is to keep yourself warm. Know how long you plan on flying and dress appropriately. If you're only gonna be outside for 5 minutes flying, then maybe just a coat and jeans is gonna be great. But if you're gonna be outside for a couple hours and it's very cold out, you're gonna need to dress with full-on snow gear. Make sure you're keeping yourself warm. The warmer you are, the more clearly and creatively and safely you're gonna be able to think as you're trying to fly. The last thing you wanna do is have a problem with your drone and you're cold, your fingers are freezing, and you can't react quickly or properly to that situation. Keeping your hands warm is one of the biggest things. For me, I use these Valorant photographer's gloves. They have these thumbs that fold back. They also have these zipper pockets where you can put hot hands in there, whatever, to help keep your hands warm. They work great. If it's cold enough out, your fingertips will still get cold after a while. So what I try to do is when I'm actually flying, I'll keep my fingertips out, and then if I have to stop or land or change batteries, I'll make sure I close the fingertips up. That way my fingers can stay warm in the meantime. One of the most useful things for flying in the winter are these hot hands packs. You can get them in bulk on Amazon, and I'll link that down below. And then you can also buy them when it gets warmer out for really cheap. I've found them before for 15 cents for a pack of 2, like in May or June when things are starting to warm up and the store is trying to clear out a bunch of them that they're afraid they're not gonna sell anymore. Tip number 2 is to always preheat your batteries. Your drone itself does not care one bit how cold it is outside, but these batteries, they definitely care about the cold. If the batteries are not warm enough, then you're not gonna have enough voltage output to fly the drone correctly. So a couple of things that can happen. The first thing that can happen is the drone may not even take off. You may not be able to arm the motors and be able to fly at all if the battery is too cold. The second thing that can happen is the drone may auto land. So if the battery gets too cold and doesn't have enough voltage in the air, the drone, wherever it's at in the air, will start to land. So that may be over a building, it might be over a land, somewhere where if it goes down, you're not gonna be able to get it back. The other thing that could potentially happen is if the battery gets cold enough and the voltage drops enough, that drone could just drop out of the sky. DJI recommends that the batteries for their drones be at least 15 degrees Celsius in order to operate correctly. So what I recommend you do is take these batteries, put them on the dash of your car, and turn the dash heater on. That way they have plenty of hot air flowing over them. In the meantime, you can take your drone, put it outside in the cold, and let it acclimate some to the cold temperatures that it's about to have to fly in. Let's say you're out in the field somewhere where you don't have a car nearby and you don't have that ability to keep batteries warm. Bring a cooler with you. Throw a bunch of hot hands packs inside that cooler. That will help to keep those batteries warm and keep that heat contained into one location. Once the drone is in the air, as long as the batteries have been preheated, you're probably going to be okay. The voltage draw and the amount of juice that's being pulled out of the batteries tends to heat them up and help keep them warm while you are in the air. You should still always watch the voltage though, because things can still go wrong. To show the voltage on screen, tap on the battery logo, then make sure you have the toggle on for show voltage on main screen. Then when we go back out, you can see that the voltage shows up at the top of the screen. If we click on the battery logo again, you can see that the screen here shows us the voltage of each cell and the overall temperature of the battery. So we can see that we are well above that 15 degrees Celsius that DJI recommends. As you watch the voltage, you really want to think about landing soon when you start to get towards that 3.7 volts mark, regardless of what percentage the battery shows. dropping too much down to 3.6 volts and lower isn't the greatest for the life of the battery. As you can see, when I hit the throttle, it starts to drop the cells down to where they turn orange. Keep in mind that a battery that shows it's fully charged with the percentage, but shows a low voltage, indicates that there is a problem with the battery. In general, the rule of thumb with batteries in cold is to always play it safe. If you feel like you're hitting 50% and maybe that voltage seems like it's getting a little low, calm back, land, put a new warm battery in there, and then get back up in the air that way. Don't push it too long because that's when you run into problems. The third thing that you need to think about when you're flying in the winter is the device that you're using to set up your settings and monitor your live feed. It doesn't matter if this is your phone, if it's an iPad, or some kind of Android tablet. Those things can be very sensitive to the cold. Similar to your drone battery, the tablet or whatever device you're using can go from 100% to dead in a matter of minutes. Now, once you warm it back up, it will come back to life, but the last thing that you want to do is have to stop shooting every 10 minutes to rewarm your device and wait for that to turn back on and then get back out and keep flying again. One way to counter this is to again use hot hands. So here's my iPad. What I like to do is stick hot hands inside these straps here. That tends to help keep the battery warm enough that the iPad won't shut off and won't lose too much battery power. Admittedly, some of the older iPads like the Air 2 had much more issues with this than the current iPad Pros do, but it's still something that you have to be aware of because it can still happen. Another option if you're a DJI user is to get one of these crystal sky displays. They're supposed to be good from -4 degrees Fahrenheit to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, or if you're outside the US, -20 to 40 Celsius. Personally, I use the ultra bright crystal sky and I have had no problems with it flying in the cold. The other advantage you have is that these batteries are replaceable on the crystal sky, so you can swap those batteries out if there's a problem with them because of the cold. The fourth thing to think about when you're flying in the winter is your takeoff and landing area. It seems like it's the hardest time to find a clean spot to take off and land because you're either dealing with snow or salt everywhere or slush. So the best thing to do is to keep a landing pad nearby. Personally, I use Hoodman landing pads. They've worked great for me. They're weighted on the perimeter so that they can't fly up from your prop wash. All you really have to do in the winter with those is clear out a nice flat spot for yourself and then put the pad down and you're good to go. The last thing to think about with winter flying is the weather. There's a whole bunch of aspects to this that we'll cover, but the first one is just like planes have problems in the winter with icing on the wings, drones can have problems with icing on props. If you have too much prop icing, your drone will not fly well and could potentially come crashing down if it's bad enough. The ice reduces the amount of lift that the propellers can create, and then that automatically means you're not going to fly very well. What I recommend doing if you're concerned about prop icing is to put the drone in the air very close to you for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, see how it does, bring it back down, and then check the props, see if there's any kind of icing issues on those propellers. Also make sure you analyze the situation in which you're flying. I did fly earlier this month in a situation where I did have some minor prop icing. However, we were flying over open fields very close to us for very short flights where we could land in 5 minutes or 10 minutes and clean off any ice or check the props and make sure everything was still going okay. While it's great to get that shot with the snowflakes passing the camera while you're in the air, we under Part 107 have to have at least 3 miles of visibility, so you have to check the forecast and check the weather conditions and make sure that you have at least that minimum 3 miles of visibility. Then the last thing to be aware of with the weather is the winds. Most areas in the US have much stronger winds in the winter than they do during the summer. And the key thing here is that it's not just the winds on the ground, it's the winds up at height. So if you're going to 400 feet in the air, the winds are going to be significantly stronger than they are on the ground. Personally, I love the app kittyhawk.io. It's free and it gives you all kinds of crucial flight information at your fingertips. Here you can check the current weather conditions for which you're going to be flying in. You can look at the winds up at different heights and get all kinds of other crucial airspace information as well. The key with all winter flying is to just think and fly safely. Winter conditions can be very tricky, so make sure you put some thought into where you're flying your drone and what's down below you. So that's going to finish off my winter tips for everybody. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We're very new. I'm always open to ideas that you can leave down in the comments below as to what things I should cover or ways I can improve this channel. I'm also going to link my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts so you can check those out. Thanks for watching and fly safe.